Deadpool is really living up to his title as a mercenary because he's killing it right now. His movie has been breaking records and making so much at the box office that it's literally changing the way studios are thinking about the superhero genre. It's already been greenlit for a sequel, so there's a lot of Deadpool coming up for us to love. I'm Lee with Cinematica, and we're here to tell you everything you need to know about the Merc with the Mouth's big screen debut. Are you a diehard fan? Just wonder if it's worth a watch? Well, we got something for everyone as we count down 107 facts you should know about Deadpool. So break out the chimichangas because we're off. The movie marks Tim Miller's directorial debut. A lot of his previous work was in visual effects, and he is known for creating the opening sequence for Thor: The Dark World and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. The movie has been in development for over a decade, getting bounced around between studios. As early as 2000, Artisan Entertainment and Marvel paired up to attempt to bring Deadpool, along with others, to the big screen. Some expected projects were Black Panther, Iron Fist, Ant-Man, and Captain America. The ownership changed hands again in 2005 with New Line Cinema taking over, and then later 20th Century Fox when New Line scrapped the project. Deadpool was first introduced into the comics in New Mutants number 98 as a villain. He was never intended to become the character we know him as. The film was later released 25 years after his first appearance. The character Wade Wilson actually gets his name as a parody of Deathstroke, aka Slade Wilson from DC Comics. According to creator Rob Liefeld, his moniker Deadpool is inspired by the 1988 Dirty Harry movie Deadpool. While he was already a fan of the character, Ryan Reynolds said he became interested in playing the character after Deadpool himself said he looked like a cross between a Sharpie and Ryan Reynolds in an issue of the comics. The idea for Reynolds to star in a Deadpool movie was discussed while he, David Goyer, and Fox executive Jeff Katz were on set for Blade Trinity 2004. Even though Goyer dropped out, Reynolds never gave up on the character. Reynolds' first appearance as Deadpool wasn't such a hit. A different version of the character appeared in X-Men Origins Wolverine in 2009 that had poor reception. A change is described as being due to a shift in the timeline during time travel in X-Men's Days of Futures Past. Deadpool even pokes fun at his previous film when Ajax threatens to sew his mouth shut, and he responds, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Reynolds said he was blackmailed into playing the original rendition of Deadpool in Origins Wolverine. After he told the studio he felt that fans would be angered by the incorrect redemption of the character, the studio told him that if he didn't play the role, he would never be allowed to play Deadpool in the future. After X-Men Origin, there was talk of a spin-off for Deadpool. However, the poor review led to the idea being thrown into development hell. A 3-minute test reel was created to try to convince the studio to move forward with the movie. It was shot in January 2012 and released to the public in August 2014, where it had a large response from fans, and the film finally began production. The scene from the test reel was so popular that they actually recreated it and included it in the movie. It is the scene where Deadpool is sitting on the bridge and drops into the car fight scene on the freeway. Paul Wernick was thrilled about the leaked footage. He said in an interview, "If you go back and look at our emails after the test footage was made in 2012, we said back and forth, how do we leak this? How do we get the groundswell support from our fans? When it finally leaked in 2014 and got the reaction we were looking for, we were like, here it goes." After seeing fan reactions to the leaked footage, the studio set a release date for the movie without even telling Reynolds or Miller. Reynolds said that it is an absolute fact that without the internet, Deadpool would never have made it. He said that the fans sent so much hate mail to Fox that they had no choice but to make the movie. David Fincher and James Cameron both really loved the Deadpool script, and were both instrumental in getting it pushed through to higher ups during early production. Both directors were friends of Tim Miller as well. Even though everyone knew he was going to star, as of 2014 there was no contract in place for Reynolds. Reynolds actually said that Deadpool would be the last comic book character he is willing to play, although is open to sequels and cameos. This could be due to the actor's past mediocre comic book characters. This film is actually Reynolds' 5th time in a comic book movie, after Blade Trinity, X-Men's Origin, Wolverine, Green Lantern, and R.I.P.D. Reynolds had fun with fans on April Fool's Day 2015, when he posted on Twitter that the film would have a PG-13 rating. Due to the nature of Deadpool's violence and humor, fans reacted with an uproar backlash. Later that day, Reynolds confirmed that it was just a prank and the movie would be rated R. The year that Deadpool was first announced in the comics, 1991, was also the year that Reynolds began his acting career. Deadpool is known for breaking the fourth wall, normally a rule not meant to be broken. Reynolds, however, said that Deadpool is coming along at the right time for audiences to get behind the rule breaking, calling it like watching a DVD commentary by someone who's got a pop culture savvy and is kind of funny and a little obnoxious and saying things that you wouldn't say. There was discussion over how far to go with Reynolds' bad appearance. Some of the comics portray him as almost zombie-like, but Miller didn't want that. He did, however, want to give an obvious reason for why the character behaved as he did: horrible ugliness. The full body makeup that Reynolds had took about 8 hours to apply, and once on, he wasn't able to sit or lie down. Upon seeing the official Deadpool costume for the first time, Reynolds claimed they started to cry. Deadpool's costume was made of a mesh material, which apparently was hard to work with for the CGI because the dirt would become trapped in the material and change the color depending on the light. It originally had a layer of muscle within it, but that needed to be removed because Reynolds was already muscular, and the additional layer made him look too big. Reynolds was allowed to keep the Deadpool costume, mainly because he walked off set with it without asking permission. Deadpool approves. Reynolds spent a fair bit of time as Deadpool off set. He dressed as Deadpool to visit sick children via the Make-A-Wish Foundation while the movie was in production. He even dressed up as Deadpool for Halloween. Talk about getting in the character. Even though they employed a stuntman for Reynolds, he did almost all his own stunts. The screenplay was written by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who worked together on Zombieland and G.I. Joe Retaliation. David Goyer was expected to write and direct the movie, but instead opted to work on other projects. After Goyer dropped as director, it took some time for the production team to find a new one. Robert Rodriguez was an early choice, but he opted to focus on his Machete and Spy Kids franchise. Once Rodriguez was officially out, commercial director Adam Berg was in talks to take the reins on the movie. Through development, Reese and Wernick wrote several versions of the script, including a PG-13 one. No one wants to read that one. Wernick admitted that he and Reese were not all that familiar with the comic when they initially heard about the job. Upon reading the comics, the two became big fans of the Merc with the Mouth, and how could you not? In their initial concept, they opted to use Deadpool's original story from X-Men's origin, even though they felt like it didn't do the character justice. To make sure they were always ready for the green light, Reese and Wernick wrote a new draft of the script every calendar year, between the initial draft in 2009 and the filming in 2015. Writer Reese said that Negasonic Teenage Warhead was not necessarily their first pick for X-Men to be in the film. They considered others such as Cannonball, but landed on Negasonic Teenage Warhead because they liked her name better. They also considered making Cable part of the story early on. Instead, they chose to let Deadpool have his own movie and save Cable just in case they got a sequel. Originally, the script included Garrison Kane, but he was removed because his futuristic arms seemed too unrealistic, even for a Deadpool movie. That and budget restraints on the CGI they'd need for those arms. Dr. Kilbrew, the man responsible for the experiment on weight in the comics, was initially going to be in the movie in the same role he played in the comics, but was eventually cut. A few more characters that didn't make it: Wire, Taskmaster, who would have been too expensive to use, and even the Hulk, who Fox doesn't even have the rights to use. Even with all the rewrites and significant time spent in production limbo, the writers say about 70% of the original script stayed in the final product. The team turned in a script the day Avengers was released, and thought the success that movie saw would instantly get Deadpool the green light. Instead, it just made the studio want to go a different route and include Deadpool in a team-up movie like the Avengers. Many of the actors had to go through training to play their roles. Ed Scarron, who plays Ajax, had 3 weeks of training 2 times a day with the stunt team, mixed with weapons training in London, all before he arrived on location to shoot. The 4 final choices for Vanessa were Morena Baccarin from Gotham, Taylor Schilling from Orange is the New Black, Crystal Reed from Teen Wolf, and Rebecca Rittenhouse from the short-lived Red Band Society. Olivia Munn auditioned for the role of Vanessa, which she didn't get. but it did, however, lead her to being cast as Psylocke in X-Men Apocalypse. You can check out the 107 video for Apocalypse for the full story. Morena Baccarin, who plays Vanessa, also did the voice for Tila al Ghul in the DC animated movies Son of Batman and Batman Bad Blood. In the comics, Vanessa becomes a shape-shifting mutant known as Copycat. While this isn't seen in the movie, she does say that she plays many roles. Sequel? The character Colossus is different from the Colossus we see in the other X-Men movies. Apparently, Daniel Cudmore didn't want to reprise the role, and Miller wanted the character to look more like he felt like Colossus should. Cudmore tweeted that the reason he declined reprising Colossus is because they would not really be using his voice or his likeness, as the character is all CGI and voiceover. Colossus is all CGI, done with motion capture technology. Greg LaSalle, who does the facial capture, found it difficult to do the vomit scene, where Colossus gets sick at the sight of blood. He said he needed to do it several times, and put his whole body into it for the capture technology to pick it up. Apparently Miller was like, dude, you gotta stop, because you're going to pass out, and you're going to throw up on the cameras. In the comics, Colossus is 7 foot 5 inches in its metal form. Andre True is the stand-in for the character, who was 6 foot 8, and even wore 8-inch heels. The voice actor for Colossus, Stefan Kapachik, stands 6 foot 4 inches, which is apparently too short. Miller said that he was consistently worried that Fox would take away the rights to Colossus, even up until filming began. The creators tried to stay very true to the character in the comics. This is not necessarily true for Negasonic Teenage Warhead. In the comics, her character is a telepathic and precognitive mutant. They changed her abilities for the film because they felt it would fit more with her name. Brianna Hildebrand, who plays Negasonic Teenage Warhead, prepared for her role by training in Muay Thai for her fighting skills. Negasonic Teenage Warhead's look, shaved head, piercings, and that whole thing was based on how actress Hildebrand normally dresses. They altered her role to fit her look. Early on, Ajax had the villains Wire, Garrison Kane, and Sluggo as his teammates, but they were all merged into Angel Dust. Part of the reasoning as to why they chose to use the characters Angel Dust and Negasonic Teenage Warhead is because it required much less approval and money than many of the other characters in the X-Men universe. Gina Carano, who plays Angel Dust, is apparently afraid of spiders, and in the junkyard fight scene she spent more time worrying about spiders than fighting X-Men. Because Angel Dust isn't a prominent character in the comics, Carano and the writers pretty much built her character from scratch. They even created the character's look, which was Carano's idea to use yellow contact lenses. The character Dopinder was based on a child that Reynolds went to school with who died after being struck by lightning. The character was meant to be a tribute to him. When auditioning for Dopinder, actor Karan Sunny said that the staff didn't tell him what movie he was auditioning for, and renamed Deadpool as George. Sunny had forgotten he even auditioned for the role when he got the call asking him to join the cast. 3 months after the initial audition, Sunny said a bit of improvisation between Reynolds and himself got into the movie. He said in the scene toward the end, when you find out I have Banhu in the trunk, the conversation that follows is an improvised one, which was not in the script. Sunny said his father saw the movie in Delhi and sent him the picture of a packed theater, showing the movie's worldwide appeal. Leslie Uggams, a Broadway veteran, was cast in the role of Deadpool's roommate, Blind Al. She actually signed a 3-picture deal for the role. So if there's more Deadpool, you can look forward to more Blind Al. Though Hugh Jackman and his character Wolverine were referenced a lot in the movie, both actor and character were actually in earlier drafts of the script with cameo roles. It would have been too expensive for either though. Junkie X announced on Twitter that he did the scoring for the movie. It featured music composed by Tom Hulkenberg, using popular synthesizer riffs from the 80s that sound funny to today's ear. A lot of the blood and gore was handled by Luma Pictures. However, Digital Domain did the scene where Deadpool cuts off his hand. They didn't want to be outdone by Luma Pictures, so they had buckets of blood pour out and added a fetus hand. Principal photography for the film was primarily in Vancouver. It began in March and ended in May 2015, taking just 3 months. It got so rainy in Vancouver at times that the crew had to bring in cranes to block the rain to get filming done. Deadpool is full of Easter eggs. Reynolds says that the film has more Easter eggs than the Easter Bunny, with eggs rolling as early as the opening credits. One of the reoccurring jokes in the movie is Deadpool telling the audience how the studio didn't pay enough to include certain elements in the movie. Fox Studio actually cut $7 million at the last minute, causing several rewrites. Originally, there was going to be a motorcycle chase scene between Wade and Francis. Fight scenes were cut down by having Deadpool forget his gun and ammo bag. Deadpool was heard listening to Salt-N-Pepa's Shoot, which came out in 1993, the same year as Deadpool's first solo comic. Some references are so obscure you might not ever get them. When Deadpool has his face slammed into the headrest of the car, he says soft Corinthian leather, which is a reference to an old Ricardo Montalban Chrysler commercial. The flashback scene with Wade as a hitman was taken from Deadpool number 10, almost word for word. A few differences. In the comics, it happens post-experiment, he blows the pizza guy's head off. The pizza boxes that are delivered are marked as Feige's favorites, which is a nod to Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel. In that scene, Wade is wearing a t-shirt with B. Arthur on it. This is a reference to Deadpool's affection for B. Arthur and the Golden Girls show in the comics. The Team Head Kick Deadpool rap song was featured during the origin montage, was actually created for the 2013 video game and re-proposed for this film. At the arcade, when Wade and Vanessa are collecting prizes, a stuffed dog with a Deadpool costume can be seen. This is in reference to Dogpool, a dog that was experimented on with similar results to Wade and his eventual canine companion. The Crete recruiter hands Wade a business card that reads only 555-0199. This number has been used in The X-Files, How I Met Your Mother, and The Wolf of Wall Street, among others. When Wade is taken to the lab to begin experimentation on him, there appears to be a small cameo by another Marvel character, Morrow the Morlock, sitting on one of the tables. Though everyone knows the joke at the expense of the lackluster Green Lantern movie, don't make the suit green or animate it, there were meant to be more. Some unused dialogue has Deadpool saying, so a guy comes in with a $1,000 suit and says, we want you to play a superhero, but there's no script yet and the release date is completely unmakeable. These are some issues Reynolds said he had to deal with while making the Green Lantern movie. The inspiration for the laboratory fight scene between Wade and Ajax was the sauna showdown in David Cronenberg's Eastern Promises. Initially, there was going to be a scene where Wade got a Spider-Man mask and turned it inside out to determine his own superhero costume. This may have been cut because Fox didn't have the rights to Spider-Man. The movie also makes a nod to the aforementioned comic book line about Deadpool looking like a mix between Ryan Reynolds and a Sharpie. When Wade says he looks like he was bit by a radioactive Sharpie, it's also a Spider-Man reference. A 2-for-1. For the scene where Deadpool was stabbed in the head, Miller found a French animation artist with a style he liked to create the cartoon characters that danced around his head, and the visual effects team composed them in. When Colossus tells Deadpool he's going to take him to see the professor, Deadpool replies McAvoy or Stewart, and a fourth wall nod to the actors who played Professor Xavier in the movies. If you look carefully in the apartment Deadpool shares with Blind Al, there are Deadpool action figures all over the place. In the end scene, when Deadpool recognizes one of the bad guys and they have a quick exchange, that is reference to Bob, agent of Hydra. He's a friend of Deadpool from the comics who only joined Hydra because his wife wanted him to have a steady job. When Deadpool cuts his own arm off and blood sprays everywhere, he says, "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret." This line is the title of a coming-of-age book by Judy Blume about a girl getting her first period. This movie was working for that R rating. Deadpool's other co-creator, Fabian Nicieza, gets mentioned in the form of a street sign during the chase scene, where you can see Nicieza Street and Fabian Road. The scene also contains a Miller Street, presumably for Miller. Deadpool pays a visit to the X Mansion, but some fans might recognize this as Oliver Queen's house in Arrow and as Lex Luthor's house in Smallville. When coming up with ways to describe Wade's scarred face, improviser TJ Miller came up with some very gross and excessive insults that could not be included in the movie even with an R rating. Two names Deadpool considers using are Scaredevil and Captain Deadpool, nods at the Marvel characters Daredevil and Captain America. Wade Wilson is seen reading Mario Lopez's biography, an allusion to the promotional bit where Deadpool knocks Lopez unconscious during an interview with Ryan Reynolds on Extra. The names on Deadpool's board include Ryan Reynolds, TJ Miller, Rob Liefeld, Mike Tyson, Vladimir Putin, Ozzy Osbourne, Charlie Sheen, Shia LaBeouf, Bill Cosby, Lindsay Lohan, Miley Cyrus, John Booth, Amanda Bynes, Kid Rock, Arnold Palmer, Ned Beatty, and Kanye West. Deadpool's producer Simon Kinberg was pushed hard to include Spider-Man in the next up-and-coming Deadpool movie. He said that he and Tim Miller would love to see it. Both of us are close with Marvel's Kevin Feige. We respect and love Kevin. If it were even remotely possible, we would find a way, because we'd love to see it. Stanley makes his obligatory Marvel movie cameo as a strip club DJ. This is R-rated Stanley. Following the comic book trend of post-credit sequence, this one directly plays on the credit scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and a quick fury of reference and announcements that the character Cable will be in the sequel. Deadpool is pushing the envelope for comic book movies. It's the first R-rated movie since Punisher Warzone 2008 and the first of the X-Men franchise to receive an R rating. The film budget for Deadpool was around $58 million, which is significantly lower than X-Men, Iron Man, Avengers, or Captain America movie budget. China did not allow the movie to be shown. The Chinese film market is known to heavily censor violence, profanity, and sex, and they decided not to edit the movie because there were so many of those elements. The film would not be comprehensible without them. The marketing for the movie was filled with virtual campaigns that included the 12 Days of Deadpool and a Christmas trailer, as well as the campaign to push Deadpool as a Valentine's Day romantic film. Deadpool is a known fan of Hello Kitty. The official Deadpool Twitter is actually following only one account, Hello Kitty. The film pays homage to this in the form of chapstick. The film made its world premiere in Paris on February 8, 2016, 2 days before the UK and 4 days before North America's release. On January 19, 2016, there were unseen footage screenings in New York and LA, which turned out to be a surprise screening of the whole movie. The movie earned a whopping $130 million opening weekend. It's the first R-rated opening to pass the 100 million mark, the biggest February debut, the 8th biggest non-summer debut, and the 17th biggest opening weekend in history. It's the biggest opening in 20th Century Fox's history, even their 6 Star Wars movies, though not The Force Awakens. Thanks for watching Cinematica's 107 Facts You Should Know About Deadpool. What was your favorite line from the movie? Sound off in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to check out some of our 107 Facts videos by clicking the annotation or links in the description. Be sure and head on over to Movie Mistakes and catch the 10 biggest movie mistakes you missed in Deadpool. It's pretty good. We have new videos dropping every week, so let us know what you want us to cover. And if you like getting more from your movies and TV, subscribe to Cinematica, where we help you watch smarter.